the different begadim, the different garments that the Kohen Gadol would wear. 4 garments more than the regular Kohen. One of those garments was the me'il, a certain cloak, a blue cloak made out of tchelas that the Kohen Gadol wore. And the pasuk tells us that on the bottom, on the hem of this cloak, the pasuk says, "Vasisal shulav rimonei techeles v'argaman v'tolah shani." That on the bottom of it were these fabric-made pomegranates, upamonei zahav b'tocham saviv, and also these golden bells. So these golden bells, and you have these pomegranate-looking fabrics going along the hem of the me'il. And the pasuk says, "Pamon zahav v'rimon, pamon zahav v'rimon." There was a golden bell and a rimon, a golden bell and a rimon. And there's machlokas between Rashi and the Ramban as to what these bells, pomegranates, look like. On one hand, the pasuk says that the pamonei zahav, the golden bells, were inside betocham. They were inside the pomegranates. So what does that mean? So the Ramban says that if really all you saw from the outside was the pomegranate, if you look inside, you would see the bell. The bell was betoch, it was inside the pomegranate. But Rashi says not that way. Rashi says that the word betocham doesn't mean inside it, it means in between. So you had a pomegranate bell, pomegranate bell, pomegranate bell, going around the entire thing. And the question on Rashi is that why tell us that the bell was in between the pomegranates? Maybe the pomegranate was in between the bell, right? You have bell, pomegranate, bell, pomegranate, bell, pomegranate. So who said that the bell was in between the 2 pomegranates? Maybe it was the opposite. Okay. So they, one of them, different svarim, they quote an answer from Rav Beryl Soloveitchik, who said that the whole idea of the pamonei zahav b'tocham, that the golden bells had to be in between the pomegranates, was telling us how you actually have to put them on. So if you want to make your me'il, first you put the pomegranates, leave a spot in between, and afterwards you go ahead and you put the bell in between. Okay, it had to be placed that way, and that's why the Torah called it that you're putting it in between, because that was the order of how to make the hem. So for example, if you fast forward to Parshas Pekudei, which is telling us how to go ahead and make it, so in Perek Lametes, Pasuk Chav Gimel, the Pasuk says, Upi ami'il b'tocho kefit tichra, fine, tzafal fiv saviv l'ikareya, fine, Pasuk Chav Dal, ve'asu al shulei ami'il rimonei, tchelas v'argamam tolah sheni mazar. You should make pomegranates on the bottom, and then the next Pasuk says, ve'asu pamonei zahav. Then it says to make the bells. So it's coming to teach you that that's the order of how you're supposed to make it. And the Rambam in Hilchos Klei HaMikdash actually says that that's the order. You're supposed to go ahead and do it. First you put on these pomegranates, and then in between them you stick in these bells. Okay, so now we know that's the order of how to make it. But still, what's the idea behind it? Why do I have to make it this way? That it has significance that the bell is in between the 2 pomegranates. So there's a beautiful explanation of the Alshich on this week's parsha, and he explains as follows. The Gemara tells us in Maseches Zvachim and Daf Peiches that the different garments that the Kohen Gadol wore, each one atoned for something else. The me'il atoned for lashon hara. It atoned for our bad speech. And therefore, there were bells on the bottom. The bells on the bottom represent making a noise. Okay? So the whole point of these rimonim, it's a fabric, don't make any noise. Says the Alshich, exactly. The whole point of the rimonim was not making noise. The time that you don't speak, and you keep your mouth shut, and you hold back from saying something that you should not be saying. So the bells represent speech, and the rimonim represent non-speech. Before a person ever speaks, a person should stop, not speak immediately, not to be impulsive, and think about what it is that they want to go ahead and say. Is it productive what they're going to go ahead and say? Is it going to get us somewhere? Is it going to make the other person feel good? Is it going to be positive? Before a person opens their mouth, they should stop and think about what they're going to say. Okay? If they decide to actually speak. So now comes the bell. You go ahead and you speak. And then after you speak, a person again should stop, close their mouth, and think about what they just said. Was it a good idea to say what they said? What was the effect that it had on the other person? Do they have to make something up afterwards to fix it? Can they now speak even more to try to move things forward even in a better way? There always has to be this 2-to-1 ratio of non-speaking to speaking. And that is the way to perfect our speech. It's not enough to never speak. That's not what Hashem wants from us. And it's bad to just speak all the time and speak quickly. When we ever enter into an important conversation or any conversation, we want to first think about what it is that I'm about to say, then say it, and then reflect on what happened based on my speech. So the idea over here is that the pamonim, the bells, go in between the two rimonim. We have a rimon of non-speech before, we have then the bell, and then we have the rimon of non-speech afterwards to teach us this lesson. Someone once showed me, oh, I forgot the photocopy, but I'll bring a picture right now. If anyone looks in a Sefer Torah, so the letter Pei in a Sefer Torah, the next time you get an Aliyah, you can take a look. The letter Pei has to be written in a way that the black part of the Pei creates that the inside of the Pei looks like a bet. Okay, meaning at some point in the middle, it has to shoot back to the right, that the Pei, the black Pei, creates an empty parchment in the middle that looks like a bet. The Mishnah Berurah brings us down la halacha. If you don't do it that way, your Sefer Torah is still kosher, but it's not as valuable and it's not as lechatchila as one that doesn't look this way. So the letter Pei in the Torah has to be made with a base of blank parchment inside, in it. Why is that? So there are different explanations. One explanation that's given is to teach us that the bet, that's the number 2, of empty space, that's the parchment, the 2 times of non-speaking has to be there for the Pei, that's the mouth, the word Peh means a mouth, that is shown and delineated. So the Peh that we show, that we draw in the ink, that we show out to the outward, has to always have with it a hidden non-Pei of a bet of 2 times of non-speech. And that's the explanation that the Alshich goes ahead and gives. The Gemara tells us that in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, Tosas and Avodah Zarah says the story took place in the second Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara is in Kedushin. The Gemara tells us that the Chachamim, they lost the stone of the breastplate called the Yashpeh. The Yashpeh was the stone, was different girsos, whether it was the Avnei Shoam or the Yashpeh, but the Rishonim say that it was the Yashpeh stone. The Yashpeh stone fell out of the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. What was this Yashpeh stone? The Yashpeh stone was the stone that reflected Binyamin. In fact, the Baal HaTurim tells us that the gematria of Yashpeh is 395, which is the same gematria as Binyamin ben Yaakov, 396. Gematria is you let one off. So the Baal HaTurim says it has the same gematria. And on the stone of the Yashpeh stone, it said Binyamin. That was the stone of Binyamin. What was so significant of that stone? So the Rishonim say, Rabbeinu Bachai says, because Binyamin represented someone who held back from speech. The Medrash says, the Medrash Tanchuma in Bereshis Lamed Vav, the Gemara says, Amar Shim ben Gamliel, Kol Yamai Gadalti ben Achachamim, V'lo Matzati Leguf Tov El Shtika. What was the greatest character trait that he found by the Chachamim? Not speaking. Knowing when not to say something. Knowing to be very, very careful to hold back speech, shtika. And he explains, Rachel tafsa b'shtika, amda zar b'shtika, rasa savlunaseh b'yada chasav v'shatka. Rachel, who very, very much wanted to reveal to her sister that reveal to Yaakov the signs, etc., to know what was going on, Rachel kept quiet. She kept quiet, and that was the right thing. She held back something she had a very strong desire to go ahead and say. She held back. Rachel's descendant Binyamin, the same thing. Binyamin bana Evan Shalom min ha'ephod Yashpeh. Yodeh b'mechiras Yosef eshotek. Binyamin knew about what happened with the selling of Yosef and never told his father, because he knew, even though it was terrible, he saw his father in pain, but he knew that was the wrong thing. And that's not what Hashem's plan was. He had to hold back, and he held back from saying what he wanted to say. That continues into the Purim story as we get ready for Purim. Shaul ben Binah, Vezdavar Makal lo higidlo. Shaul also, and Esther, also a descendant, Ein Esther Magedes Lo. Esther kept her secret of who she really was. She was really Jewish. There's this whole idea in the lineage of Rachel of when you want to say something and you have a desire to say it, but you know it's not right, to be able to hold back from such a speech. And therefore, Binyamin had this stone called the Yesh Peh, that Yesh Peh doesn't mean you have a big mouth like nowadays people would say. You want to know if you have a mouth? If you have a real mouth, the right mouth, it's a mouth that doesn't speak. It's a mouth that knows how to control their speech, of knowing what to say and when to say it. And in the second Beis HaMikdash, like we said, the Chachamim, they lost this Yesh Peh stone. Why? Because the second Beis HaMikdash, there was a lot of sinas chinam, baseless hatred. And as the Chafetz Chaim writes, that it was all based on the Lashon Hara that people used to speak. The way that people spoke to each other and treated each other was down and out. And therefore, we weren't zocheh to have that Yesh Peh stone. And it fell out and we lost it. Not speaking, holding back from when I do want to say something, I want to say that joke, I want to use that word. I know that everyone in my chevra, they're going to laugh if I go ahead and make that comment. To hold back is the godless. To hold back is the great way to go to be successful. And that's the message over here. That yes, there are bells, and it's there to be mechaper, to atone for the sin of Lashon Hara on the bottom of the me'il. But with each one of those bells, there's the pregame and the postgame. And those are represented by non-speaking. And that's part of the speech. It's not before I speak, I think, and after I speak, I think. It's part of speech. Part of speech is the preparation beforehand and knowing, should I say it, should I not say it? And afterwards to think and make a cheshbon nefesh, was it appropriate to go ahead and say what I said? And if it was, how can I further it even more? And that is double the amount of time that's required, more than the amount of time that a person speaks. So we have to try to incorporate this into our lives, because we don't have the me'il, but we could learn the lesson from it. That in every type of conversation that we ever have, in every situation that we have, we should be trying to think extra about what we're saying. Is it appropriate to say? Should we say it? Is it going to help other people? Is it going to make other people sad? And Ezra Hashem, through that, will be zocheh to the Yesh Peh, to the Yesh Peh, that will be zocheh to having the Kohen Gadol back with the stones, the way it's supposed to be in the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. Meher B'Yameinu. Amen.